Homebuyers, what you need to know about the NAR Settlement. My name is Kurt Kessler. I'm a loan officer. Before we jump in, quick disclaimer. Now, who is NAR? NAR stands for the National Association of Realtors, which is the largest trade association in the United States that represents real estate professionals. What is the NAR Settlement? In March of 2024, the National Associations of Realtors agreed to a $418 million settlement to end a series of class action lawsuits. The lawsuits allege that NAR's compensation rules, which required selling agents to advertise buyer agent compensation on listings, were anti-competitive and inflated commissions. I disagree with this, but that's what it was about. Now, before the NAR settlement, if you were thinking about selling your home, you would interview agents. You could interview multiple agents. The agents would come to your home. They would evaluate the house, the market, what you probably sell it for, their marketing plan to do so, and negotiate a compensation to do that. Now, once the house hit the market, a buyer with a buyer agent might come along and make an offer. After negotiations, you come to an agreement. When the transaction closed, the listing agent and the buyer agent shared the compensation or commission from that transaction. Now, 4 to 6% is for example purposes only. Commissions have always been negotiable and were never set by any one organization or any one individual. Now, much like home sellers hire a listing agent, home buyers will hire their realtor. You might interview 1 or 2 or 3 to find the agent that best suits you. And when you hire an agent, you're signing a buyer representation agreement with a negotiated compensation. And in order to tour properties, to see homes on the market, an agent cannot show you homes unless that agreement has been signed. This is what the agreement looks like. You don't need the buyer's agent agreement to look at an open house or, say, a new housing community. Buyer agreement can be for a specific home, a specific time, a specific area, or a specific number of homes. It's not set in stone, but it has to be signed in order for that agent to show you property. Now, this creates more transparency. You understand the fiduciary relationship what you have to your agent, you understand the compensation and what they're going to do for you. And the agent realizes you're committed to working with them and they're going to devote their time to you. Now, how does the agent receive the compensation? Buyer agent commission will be paid from the proceeds of the sale. This is known as seller paid. Most transactions will be done this way. Or the buyers will pay the agent commission as part of the closing costs. Let's look at how this might happen. But before we jump into that, let's look at national averages. National statistics show that 97.9% of the transactions, sellers are still offering buyer agent compensation, seller paid. In the off chance that this isn't the case, we have a way to win the deal. So I have 4 columns here. This assumes $1 million purchase price on a property with 10% down. Column number 1, seller paid. Column number 2, we raise the price by the commission amount. If the seller refuses to pay, we get the concession due to price. Column number 3, we talked about 10% down. Well, instead of putting 10% down, you put 7% down and use the 3% for the compensation to your agent. The 4th option here, 10% down, and you actually pay the buyer agent as a closing cost. There are the ways to structure this, and that you don't want to step over dollars to save pennies. Regardless how the buyer agent compensation works out, you're going to want representation. You're going to want risk mitigation. And let's talk about the wealth aspect of real estate. In the previous slide, the one that cost you the most money still created $528,000 in net worth if we assume a 7% appreciation over only 5 years. And that is the worst case scenario. Now let's talk about real estate as a wealth creator. In the United States, if you own a home, you likely have 40 times greater wealth than a renter. That wealth gap is going to increase because we don't have enough housing inventory for our population. and builders aren't building enough. So that wealth gap that is now 40 times, it can go to 45, 50 times. So you want to get in as soon as you can. And let me show you another number here. The last 16 years of underbuilding has contributed to today's inventory problem, and we're not going to see that solved anytime soon. And in fact, if we look at standing inventory, there's about 1 million homes on the market right now. In 2010, there were about 4 million homes on the market. So we have 1/4 of the amount of homes on the market that we did 14 years ago. But during that 14 years, our population in the United States has grown 30 million. Let's look at the historical appreciation. Since 1942, homes have gone up 90% of the time. 74 years, prices have gone up. 1 year it was flat. 7 years, prices went down. Now let's look at how sellers evaluate offers. Is the offer strong? Are you pre-approved? How much is your down payment? Are there contingencies? How long is the escrow period? Who is the buyer's agent and lender? Are they local? Do they have a good reputation? And probably one of the biggest factors is, what are my net proceeds? So regardless of how the compensation goes to the listing agent and buyer's agent, what are my net proceeds as a seller? The best way to get started when buying a home is to have a solid realtor and lender team that are going to represent you and support you and guide you through this transaction and be a fiduciary for you and risk mitigate for you. Regardless of the compensation rules for listing agents and buyer's agents, homeownership is still one of the greatest ways to create wealth. I hope I answered most of your questions. If not, please feel free to reach out and contact me. I'll be glad to discuss any questions you have. Thanks for watching.